Welcome, everyone, to today's episode of the State of Greater Western New York Report. I'm Chris Carosa, and we are here at a live remote for the very first time ever in the history of the State of Greater Western New York Report. Not only do we have a live report, but we have two cameras. What are we going to learn about today? We're going to learn about a couple of interesting things. First, what's going on that we're doing this live remote about? And can you be smarter by being more emotional? We'll be back in a moment after this opening beginning, because the State of Greater Western New York Report, as always, is brought to you by a telephone that keeps ringing even though it's not supposed to.
Each week, our community makes history. Each week, you make history. And each week, there's only one source to turn to for the first take on history. You know what that is? Subscribe to the Sentinel right now to discover the history being made in your own backyard. The Menden Honey Lake Falls Lima Sentinel. More than just your news, it's your... Welcome, everyone, to this edition of the State of Greater Western New York Report. Join us each episode as we discuss fantastic topics ranging from history to science to the strange and the wonderful, as well as the treasured spirit with which our region has infused America. We challenge you to consider all things Greater Western New York, from our region's very beginnings to how it inspires, how it empowers, and why it is so admired. Here's the host of the State of Greater Western New York Report, Chris Carosa.
Hi there, and welcome once again. We're back, and we're live. And look at that. We're even live, and we're not even in our right kind of format here. I had tested this out so perfectly, and then I messed around with it, and that's what we get. But, hey, there we go. Now we're back where we're supposed to be. So, welcome to today's show. With me this morning for our first half is Melanie DellaPietra. She is, well, I'm going to let her talk about herself. Melanie, tell us what you do and where you do it.
Sure. First, though, Chris, I want to say that that's how we learn. So you're doing good for your first time here. So my name is Melanie DellaPietra. I work actually upstairs from where we are right now at NextCorps, and I am presenting at an event today on emotional intelligence. And my career has been in human resources, and I'm kind of piecing that all together now with HR and startups and freelance and a whole bunch of things. So excited to be here.
Wow, it's kind of interesting. How long have you been doing this particular sort of thing at this location?
Great question. I've kind of overlapped a lot of different things together. So I've been at NextCorps almost a year. It'll be a year in June. And I've been working on emotional intelligence and presenting since 2018, utilizing it in different ways.
So tell us more about emotional intelligence. What is it? It sounds kind of like contradictory terms, but that's what's so fascinating about it.
Right. So I wanted to ask you, Chris, when you mentioned it, you said it sounded cool. So I was curious what you think. Right? How would you describe it? Because like you said, it's sort of the mix. It sort of sounds a little counterintuitive, right?
Well, it sounds like you have control over your emotions and you're able to use them for your benefit. That would be my totally uneducated guess.
Yes, no, that's a great guess. So emotional intelligence is becoming smarter with our feelings. So has anybody ever asked you, control your emotions, don't get so angry or don't get so upset, right? And when we're feeling something and somebody asks us to control it, it's like, what do you mean? Like, you need to feel it, right?
So, Melanie, I'm gonna be honest with you. A couple years ago, my kids gave me a shirt for Father's Day. It's the many moods of Spock. They're all the same face. So that's me. I'm not really as emotional, although my mother would disagree. On the other hand, I do know people who probably could be told that.
Got it.
So what do you do when you find somebody like that?
Yes. So emotional intelligence is something that we can learn and practice and we can get stronger at. So when we're feeling those feelings, if we take the 6-second pause, it takes our emotions kind of 6 seconds to get to our thinking brain. So when we feel something, right, if I punched you right now or, I said something to you that you were like, oh, that's offensive, our initial reaction is emotional. And we need to actually kind of stop for 6 seconds and let it get to our thinking brain where we can actually think like, okay, if I said something mean back or if I, ran out of the room, like what are the consequences of that? So it's really understanding a model for identifying our feelings, being able to navigate them, because instead of control our emotions. We like to think about navigating and using them as information. And then what do we want our outcome to be? So it's really kind of methodical.
So is this how we get the expression sleep on it?
Yeah. I mean, it definitely makes sense. I mean, yeah, because if you take time, right, things with time as you think about it. For example, right, if I said something mean to you, I can't think of anything right now. We just met, but you might think, I wonder where that came from, right? I wonder why she said that to me. But after you slept on it and thought about it a little more and like processed it, right, you might take it less personally. She just, why would she have any mean intention with that, right? So I guess when I say if I said something mean to you, it's more like if I said something you interpreted as mean or unkind.
How about snarky?
Snarky, yeah, snarky.
Because you could have said to me, Chris, you're supposed to be a pro at this, but you forgot to mute your phone. So.
That's true. I could have said that. Yes, exactly. And depending on the face I had when I said it to you, or
So, can this work both ways? Like you're talking about from the point of view of the person who is receiving, say, the insult or the snarky comment, and learning to control or navigate. See, I'm learning their emotions. But what if you are the sender? Is there something you can do? Now, we're bordering malicious here. It could be beneficent, but what strategies do senders have?
yeah. So there's a couple aspects, right? There's your own awareness, and then like that social awareness as well. So by increasing your own emotional intelligence, right, you can kind of read better. You can read a room better. You can read somebody's responses better, right? So especially if it's somebody you like, right? If it's somebody that you want to spend time with and all of a sudden you kind of see this person retreating, right? Or you see them not responding the way you want to, it's great to kind of sit back and, think about, because sometimes you can't always it's not always comfortable to go to the person, right? Obviously going to the person, but if you're trying to kind of process on your own or you think you might have offended somebody, to kind of go through that process yourself of, okay, what was said, what could that impact potentially have been, what do I not know, and just taking a little gentle approach.
Well, I'm thinking of the myriad of applications where you can use something like this. So obviously, anytime you're trying to persuade somebody,
Right.
whether you could be running for office, you could be selling a car, you could be trying to convince somebody to volunteer for your organization. All these things kind of come into play. Is there like a handbook, or how do people learn more about this besides going to your presentation?
Yes. So there is an organization called 6 Seconds, and they're the largest global not-for-profit that researches and educates around emotional intelligence. So I did a training with them in 2018, and I just loved it. It was an amazing group of people. I learned so much. And so that's kind of the model that I present. So if anybody wants to check out their website, 6seconds.org, because they're not-for-profit, and you can kind of search around. I mean, they have tons of things. So whatever it is that you might want to work on, you can find it there, right? If it's practicing more empathy, if it's applying consequential thinking, right? Like, oh my gosh, I always feel like I react the wrong way, right? I don't think through the consequences and I keep getting myself into trouble. You can search that up and find a process or like some tools and ideas to help you overcome that. Empathy is a big one. That if you've ever, I know I've done it. I did it last night. I was complaining, venting, which generally I'm a pretty positive person. And the person I was complaining to started to tell me why I was wrong. And I was like, are you kidding me? Just need you to listen. I just need you to even just pretend you understand. Don't just say anything. Just listen.
I think I can empathize with the other person at this point. So tell me about your shirt. You said that's part of your presentation.
Yes. So one of the keys of emotional exercising optimism. And when we hear optimism, we oftentimes think, oh, that means right? You're positive all the time. You're always seeing the good. And that's not realistic, right? Nobody's going to be happy all the time. We all have things happen that aren't the best from time to time. So So exercising optimism is about seeing possibilities, seeing other ways, right? Getting out of our like fixed mindset of this is the only way or this is the only option, and really exploring other things. So it's been kind of a crummy week this week. It's been spring break. So my exercising optimism today was the flowers, spring is here, flowers are blooming, and then here comes the sun that it's summer. I also wore this because since the pandemic, optimism has dropped. 6 Seconds does research every 2 years, I believe it is, and they publish results about our global emotional intelligence. And it makes sense that optimism would go down after what we've all collectively been through these past 2 years because we haven't been able to see a lot of possibilities. So I wanted to also encourage people to think beyond.
Think beyond the sun. Oh, wait, no, that's
Think
a different
beyond,
thing.
right? Like, because it gets so hard because, like, am I wearing a mask? Am I not wearing a mask? Am I doing, where am I at in things? So thinking kind of beyond what we've all been experiencing these last 2 years.
Right.
Like, what else?
When you give your presentation, tell us what's the most surprising thing you've ever seen in one of your presentations?
The most surprising thing, like from an audience member?
Sure, whatever.
Huh. Interesting. Well, and it's a little hard to answer because a lot of what we do is sort of individual work.
Mm-hmm.
I hand out a kind of one sheet, so as I go through the process, people can kind of self-reflect. And so I honestly can't think of anything that like has really wowed me right now because again, so much of it is private, right? Private reflection. It's not like people are sharing their, because I want people to be able to really think, like dig deep. And a lot of times, if we're digging deep, we might not want to share that with the.
So,
the
give me an example of digging deep. You could use me as a guinea pig.
Oh yeah, so digging deep. So vulnerability is a big part of it, right? I love Brene Brown. I'll do a little plug for Brene Brown. So she has one of the most watched TED Talks ever, like top 5, and she talks about vulnerability, right? And it's hard. I mean, like you said, that you're one of those people that you don't necessarily get super angry, right? You kind of have that poker face. So digging deep would be like, why is that? Like, am I feeling really happy, right? Do I let myself really experience happy? Do I let myself really experience sadness? Or if I get really angry, right? If I feel like someone's putting me down, do I effectively deal with that, right? Do I walk away? Do I kind of avoid, right? Obviously, if it's somebody that you can avoid, that maybe don't spend time any longer with somebody who makes you feel bad, right? So that's what I mean by kind of digging, right? Is really evaluating emotions or things on a deeper level and saying, okay, what's driving this, right? Is it me? Is it that other person?
It's interesting that you say that because you think about what do people complain about most on the internet? They complain about people who complain. And it's one of those things, well, if you don't like that site, don't visit it.
Right,
Stay away.
Exactly.
If you don't like what they're saying on the news, stop watching the news.
Exactly.
And it seems like people need to learn that. And
right.
It's hard for me to relate because part of what I do is I'm curious about everything. So I guess curiosity might be somehow opposite of all this, although that's probably an emotion too. I don't know. But I'm willing to eat a lot of different foods, for example, just to see what they taste like. And if I learn that I don't really like something, I will avoid it unless I'm served that by someone and I need to eat it to show respect for that person. But it's hard. I think it's hard to show people.
Sure. And you make a great point, right, about the news, the things we consume, right, the people we surround ourselves with, right? People say misery loves company. So if you're surrounding yourself with complainers, right, and you sort of fall into that trap, like how can you change that, right? Can you find a different group or, spend more time with another group? Or maybe you've even lost touch with some people during the pandemic that you're like, you know what, those people really made me feel good, right? I enjoyed spending time with them. But I've been, since the pandemic, just with this specific group of people because I've had to be for whatever, reasons. And, maybe it's time to shift a little bit and again, exercise some optimism and some possibilities and reconnect with some people who make you feel good.
Exactly. So if you were going to leave one piece of advice to our listeners, because we're about ready to break right now, what would that be?
When you feel yourself going down a track, because actually recognizing patterns is a big part of it. So if you feel yourself having a reaction, I would say try to use that 6-second pause, take a deep breath, just count to 6, and try to just see it from another perspective, right? Exercise optimism, try to see another possibility. So kind of recognizing patterns, 6-second pause, try to see it.
Excellent. Melanie, that's great advice. Remember, folks, 6 seconds is all that there is between you and a happier life. All right, we'll be back right after this message with a new and thrilling guest that actually I know. We'll see you in a moment.
Through the mists of time, nature and man have both created and buried treasures beyond the imagination. With the ages, these riches slowly dissolve into mere myths until they are forever forgotten. But there are those brave souls who tirelessly cling to the truth, ever seeking to discover the undiscovered, to reveal what has always been there, to uncover the hidden gems of a land thought forsaken but loved by millions. 50 Hidden Gems of Greater Western New York. Discover the secrets in your own backyard. Buy your copy now at 50 Hidden.
Hey, and welcome back to the State of Greater Western New York Report. I'm Chris Carosa, and with me now is Madison Bricaglia. Say that right?
Bricalia.
Bricalia.
Yeah, soft cheek.
Oh, yeah, I know. It's like Lee. I learned that when I took a test.
Yes, exactly.
Lee.
Very
Oh.
Italian.
So Madison, I'm going to ask you, you are actually an organizer, one of the organizers of this event. By the way, this event, the Western New York Freelancers Conference or whatever, is actually occurring in 3 different cities at the same time, Buffalo, Rochester, and Erie, Pennsylvania. So Madison, before we get into this event, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started and how you ended up where you are now.
Yeah. So I started a few years back. I started my career as a designer and went to school for design and graduated here in Brockport. And then I went on to work in several agencies and got some agency experience before going on my own as a freelancer. And now I work as a freelance designer under the name Rosella Studio. And so I do branding and packaging design for sustainable companies that focus on eco-friendly and creating beautiful packaging for brands that also are not wasteful and using over lots of plastic and things like that. And so that's what I do as my full-time job. And then I also run as the organizer for Freelance Rochester. And Freelance Rochester is a community networking group that it's very specific. So it's freelancers in Rochester, New York. So it's a very, very specific community, but it was a very needed community because, as freelancers, we work alone by ourselves and, usually in our own home or a co-working space, for lucky people who can have access to co-working spaces. But for the most part, we're, pretty lonely and we work at home and in our home office tucked away. So it is great to be able to have monthly meetings, a network, community, and people you can just call up to maybe collaborate or ask a couple questions.
So this is your first in-person event
Yes.
in a long time. So how's the reception been? Are people excited to actually be close to somebody again?
Yeah. So I was worried because of, the pandemic and everything, how people would be, but people were very excited, very, very excited to get back out and, interact with people. And we've had a very strong group and they've been great and they're really connecting and networking and doing everything that I would ever hope for that they've been doing. And the speakers have been incredible. We have about 3 speakers a day, ranging from 101 topics to more 301 level, all things between like branding, marketing, how to go out on your own, accounting 101, lots of different topics. And so today's actually our last day in Rochester. We are at Sibley Square today, and it's our last day. And then tomorrow we are doing a closing party in Buffalo at the Incubation Center. And that is going to have everybody together, Erie, Rochester, and Buffalo. And we are going to have a panel, and it's going to be a great way to close the event.
So the people who are here, or the people who are in your group, describe them a little bit. Are they younger? Are they all over the place? Are they relatively new with their business, or have they been doing it for a while? What would the typical person in the Western New York Freelancers group look like?
Yeah, so most people are newer, I would say. The people that have been coming are more newer, aspiring freelancers, or just started, and they need some resources, some people to be able to talk to, some mentors, because we don't have a boss; it's just us. So having those relationships are incredibly important, because no matter where you are in your career, you need somebody to bounce ideas off of, or ask questions, or maybe even get some guidance. So that is usually the group. As far as age, it is a wide range. It's also very split between male, female, and it's very specific to freelancers in Rochester, of all ages and all backgrounds.
So are there other sort of resources that your group has? Well, actually, let's talk about this first. If I'm a freelancer, brand new, I want to learn more, how do I find out about your group?
Yeah, so we are, usually people have been finding us through, Google search. So freelancers in your area, or freelance Rochester. You can also search in Buffalo and Erie as well. Will come up first. And then also, we do a lot of marketing with some ads and, being involved in bulletins and networking and creating email lists. So that's another way. We work a lot with co-working spaces in the area. So we put on monthly meetup events and smaller things, not like this week, throughout the year. And then once a year, we have the week.
So the question that I got from one of the people who are listening is, what other resources or opportunities do they have? I presume they go to your website and they could look it up. So what are some of the things you have there?
Yeah, so right now, currently, our website has the program for this week. I am actually putting together a whole resource page for anyone. It's not just ticket holders. Anybody can go on this resource page. So if you would like to, please go in the contact of our website and then fill out the form that you would like to have the resource page sent right to your email. And we can go ahead and send that to you.
And give the URL one more time.
Yeah, so it's freelancebuffaloandbeyond.com. And then you will see in the menu, the main navigation, you can split between Rochester, Buffalo, and Erie. Those are the programs. But just go ahead and contact in the general contact. That will go to myself and Marie, who is the executive director of Freelance Buffalo and Beyond.
So Erie, Pennsylvania is involved.
Yes.
Is there a movement afoot to re-annex that portion of Pennsylvania? You realize that was part of New York State in the very beginning.
Oh.
Yeah, they did. And Pennsylvania needed a port in the Great Lakes, so New York gave them Erie.
Erie. Oh,
Yeah.
That's really cool. I know they're like a stone throw away. So, it to Buffalo, I believe it was only about an hour and a half.
Yeah,
so
it's not that far.
Buffalo is the perfect meeting spot between the two cities. And Erie has actually been getting a wonderful community. This is their first year, just like Rochester. And Erie's gotten a great community, and they've had a great turnout. So in Erie, it's 2 co-working organizers that are running the event at their co-working space. So it worked out perfect.
Wow. So by the way, folks, if you like history, remember, we talk about all things on this show. So we'll probably have a history one coming up in a couple of weeks. So we have, Madison, the sense of this lockdown and whatever that happened during the pandemic. Did you get a sense that maybe more people looked at it as an opportunity to maybe do new things, new ways to earn money? Have you seen that at all?
Oh, yes, definitely. For me, especially with agencies around that time, it became very scary in those environments because it was like, a lot of people were getting fired. Nobody really knew what was going on. And a lot of people felt kind of scared that, like, maybe I don't trust my employer. And I know a lot of freelancers who started because of the pandemic, actually, and they went on their own because, they're like, well, I don't have predictability in my own job. I might as well have some, not that much predictability, but at least it's on my own terms. And I can, have my own schedule and work within my strengths how I would like to, and then expand on most of the people here are service providers. They don't sell products or anything like that. So, a lot of people like virtual assistants, designers, copywriters, they all went on there. A lot of people went on their own. And that's why we needed this community, because between the pandemic, the fear of losing your job or getting laid off or replaced, and then also the great aspects of the whole theme of this event is finding your freedom with freelance, because that's really the wonderful thing about it. You really are in control of the schedule, and you're how fast you want to grow or how slow you want to grow. And it really is on your own terms.
So I'm thinking now from the point of view of somebody who would hire a freelancer. On your website, you have a list of local freelancers that people could go and look at?
Yep, we also do have a directory. So again, if you'd like to contact us to get on that directory, please go ahead and contact us. It's not, there's no process. We are going to put all of the freelancers on that directory, because we want to create as much, drive to you guys and also resources as well.
So, but as a non-freelancer, but somebody who might hire freelancers, we could go look at that directory also.
Yep, exactly.
And it's on the website, Freelance, Buffalo and Beyond.
Yep, buffaloandbeyond.com.
Okay. And so now here's another question that I just thought of, which is kind of interesting. Again, we talk a lot of different subjects on this show. And one of it, from a business point of view, is sometimes how difficult it is to do business in New York State. You've got people from Pennsylvania. Have you noticed that they may have certain advantages versus the people in New York State? What might those be?
I haven't really spoken to many people from Erie actually about that, so I would be interested in asking tomorrow when I meet them to kind of see what their experience is. For the most part, the freelancers I do know, it's pretty much the same. And then I know in Erie there's there's a ton of references and resources for them to go to because of the college canon there.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that they're very involved. Actually, a lot of their events are hosted there too. So I know there's a lot of resources. I can't speak too much on the Pennsylvania side of things. So definitely getting the Erie's perspective would be really great too.
I'm wondering if the people in Erie would know, because they wouldn't know what's in New York, just
Exactly.
like you wouldn't know what's
Yes.
in Pennsylvania. But it would be interesting to compare them and see what the issues are. At some point.
Yeah,
Not
no,
right
that
now,
would be
because
interesting. I agree.
We only have a couple more minutes left. So if you had any piece of advice you give a new freelancer, what would that be?
Definitely get a network. So not necessarily, don't think in terms of like clients, think of relationships, building relationships, thinking about, what the number one thing that helps me kind of get through the day-to-day of like working for yourself is just having a mission that's bigger than your own self. So something that drives you to create an impact. I always think that business follows impact. So the more that you're doing in your community, the more you're getting involved, a lot of volunteer, also utilizing your time in a great ways, like volunteering or splitting it between being in community events, because you can, since you're not in a structured 9-to-5. So, implementing those things, but really having that mission behind what you're doing and why you do it. And I think that's really what gets people up out of the bed every morning, because it's really going to drive them. And so that would be my biggest piece. And then just meeting a bunch of people, all different backgrounds, all different experiences, get to know people, kind of absorb all that information like a sponge in the beginning, and then kind of doing maybe some trial and error before you 100% go on your own, maybe take in some pro bono work just for experience, only for experience, and then, kind of grow.
Trial and error, like what we're doing today, folks. So thank you for listening. Thank you, Madison, for being
Yes,
here.
thank you for having me.
Melanie. She's still over there in the not-so-green room. Again, if you want to be a part of the live audience, just feel free to hop onto our website, which is stateof.greaterwesternnewyork.com, and you can just click on the little thing there for free. It'll put you on the list, and every Thursday morning, you'll get the private invite to the Thursday show. So thank you all for listening. Again, if you missed the live show, don't forget, you can always get the rebroadcast at 1:30 on our Facebook page and YouTube channel, or you can go right to our website, stateofgreaterwesternewyork.org, and see a copy of the show. Well, on behalf of me, myself, and I, Madison, good job. Good to see you. Everyone, thanks for being here, and we'll see you all next week. Bye for now.
Bye.